Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the field of hadith, no other person has gained the amount of popularity and worldwide acceptance after Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah like Imam Muslim rahimahullah. His full name was Asakiruddin Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj ibn Muslim al-Qushayri al-Naysaburi, and his kunya was Abu al-Hussein. Imam Muslim rahimahullah was born in the town of Naysapur in Khurasan in the year 204 after Hijrah. Now, hearing this date 204, as a result, Imam Muslim rahimahullah was only slightly younger than Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah, with there being only a 10-year age gap between them. Therefore, Imam Muslim rahimahullah was both the student as well as the contemporary of Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah. Naysapur was a town where many great ulama were. Some were the natural inhabitants of that land, being of Persian origin, and others were Arabs that had settled there. The ulama have mentioned that Imam Muslim rahimahullah was of the latter type, that his forefathers were Arabs from the tribe of Qushayr that had settled in Naysapur. Imam Muslim rahimahullah was from a pious family that were attached to the ulama and the knowledge of the deen. Imam Muslim rahimahullah's father, Hajjaj ibn Muslim, he was someone that would always attend the lessons of the ulama. There was not a single class being taught but that he would attend it. And it was in this environment that Imam Muslim rahimahullah was born, and he would attend these classes with his father from that young age. He then began his studies under the ulama of Naysapur, and when he had reached the age of 12, his travels in search of the ahadith began. He traveled to Makkah and Medina, to Iraq and Egypt and Sham, and elsewhere as well, and he collected over 300,000 ahadith, and from those ahadith he handpicked the ones which he then placed into his Sahih. Imam Muslim rahimahullah had over 220 famous ulama that he studied under, many of whom were the teachers of Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah as well, such as Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh rahimahumallah. And any person that has read the Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari and the Sahih of Imam Muslim rahimahumallah will recognize the amount of teachers that they had in common, that they both had taken ahadith from. Imam Muslim rahimahullah took a similar path to Imam al-Bukhari rahimahullah when he compiled his Sahih. In fact, he modeled himself on Imam al-Bukhari, and that is why there are so many similarities between them. Imam Muslim rahimahullah, he also undertook this task of compiling a book only consisting of ahadith with authentic chains of narration, and that is why it is known as the second most authentic book after the Quran. It had taken Imam Muslim rahimahullah 15 years to compile his Sahih, because apart from only selecting those ahadith with authentic chains, he further refined it by only selecting those ahadith which were in conformity with other authentically reported ahadith. Added to this is that Imam Muslim rahimahullah always kept the names of each narrator clear, so he wouldn't mention a narrator just by his kunya, saying that Abu so-and-so, Abu Fulan reported, but rather he would make mention of the narrator's name so that there is no confusion at all as to who the narrator is. Because sometimes two narrators may have the same kunya, Abu Muhammad and Abu Muhammad, but which Abu Muhammad is being spoken of, so he would clarify all such things. In addition to all of this, Imam Muslim rahimahullah paid special attention to the exact words that each and every narrator used. Nothing was allowed to slip by just because it's a synonym or is because the way the people speak like that. Nothing of the sort. Imam Muslim rahimahullah also took into account the method how the ahadith were narrated, whether it was the direct words of the imam narrating to his students, saying haddathana, or whether it was the students who were reading the hadith to the teacher who would then confirm it, using the word akhbarana. Even such minute details were taken into account in his compilation of his Sahih. And finally, Imam Muslim rahimahullah also restricted himself in his Sahih to only those ahadith that were reported from at least two of the reliable tabi'in, who in turn had to have heard the hadith from at least two Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. So while it may have sounded easy in the beginning to simply compile a book of hadith, which are all authentic, but once you see the amount of work and effort that Imam Muslim rahimahullah put into this kitab, you can see why it attained such a high rank amongst the Muslims for more than 1,000 years and will remain as such until the end of time, insha'Allah ta'ala. Imam Muslim rahimahullah named his kitab Al-Musnad al-Sahih al-Mukhtasaru bi-Naql al-Adli an al-Adli ila Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. That is the actual name of the kitab, which we in short know as Sahih Muslim. Imam Muslim Rahimahullah had also written a number of other books on various topics, but unfortunately most of it was lost through history. Imam Muslim Rahimahullah was a very independent person from his young days. The food he ate and the money he used for his studies and his travels and so on was money that he worked for and earned himself. His father was a clothing merchant. He would sell clothes, and it was this business that Imam Muslim Rahimahullah went into himself. So he would work, and with the money that he earned, he would buy his food, save up money for when he needed to travel, and for his studies, and whatever else he needed, he would earn and use that money. Imam Muslim Rahimahullah in fact used to conduct lessons directly from his shop. So while he would be running his business, he would be teaching the deen as well. Imam Muslim Rahimahullah never stuck out his hand to anyone for anything, because Allah had given him a means whereby he could earn. So if he needed something, he would work and save up for it, never stretch out his hand and ask someone to give him something. And this is something that we can take lesson from. Imam Muslim Rahimahullah was such a great scholar who made such an impact on the world, and he did this side by side while living a normal life and doing business as well. The senior ulama during the time of Imam Muslim Rahimahullah heaped praises upon him due to the extent of his knowledge, so much so that Imam Muhammad ibn Bashar Rahimahullah had said that the Hufad, and here he's referring to Hufad of Hadith, not a Hafiz al Quran. So, and to be a Hafiz of Hadith on the lowest level, you need to have memorized 100,000 ahadith entirely with its chains and not make a single mistake in it. Then you earn the title of Hafiz, and that's the first rank. It goes higher beyond that. So Imam Muhammad ibn Bashar Rahimahullah said that the Huffaz of the world are four. Imam Abu Zur'a Rahimahullah in the town of Ray, Imam Muslim Rahimahullah in the town of Naysabur, Imam Ad-Darimi Rahimahullah in Samarkand, and Imam Al-Bukhari Rahimahullah in Bukhara Rahimahumullah. That is the rank that Imam Muslim Rahimahullah had reached. He reached the level where he was considered not by his students or people of no rank, but rather by the great and knowledgeable ulama of the time. They considered him as being one of the foremost knowledgeable people in the world and the most knowledgeable person in the entire Naysabur. Imam Muslim Rahimahullah lived and passed away in Naysabur at the age of only 55 years old, and yet he left behind so much that the Ummah continues to benefit from it up till this very day. Every time one of us reads a hadith from his Sahih or benefits from the knowledge which he had passed down, it is a means of reward for him in the year after. And there is not a day that goes by or has gone by, but that someone, somewhere in the world, is reading and benefiting from the works of Imam Muslim Rahimahullah. May Allah reward him immensely for his goodness and grant us the understanding and the ability to follow in his footsteps. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.